And over time, what I began to realize is that the calling in my own life was really to try and see how I might use the gifts of my own life, the education I had received, in terms of trying to help people to live their faith more in action than just in words. So about 25 years ago, I found myself at the National Institutes of Health, Bethesda, Maryland, and I was doing medical research with the idea that my career was about ready to take off in terms of doing pediatric endocrinology at a children's hospital. And one day, while I was doing some of my medical research, I got the distinct impression that what I was doing, as good as it was not really what I was meant to be doing. Shortly thereafter, decided what I would do is I would go to El Salvador, a country at that time that was in the midst of a civil war, and I would use some of the skills that I had to really try to offer them on behalf of people who had been abandoned by their government and offer health care in the midst of the fighting that was going on. The Jesuit priests in El Salvador were about 7 or 8 people who really had defended the human dignity and human rights of the Salvadoran people. They lost their lives for doing so in November of 1989. And shortly thereafter, I entered the Society of Jesus, and from that time on, I began to shift more and more from medical practice to actually doing more public health service, and then from there into really trying to dedicate the time that I had to really working on this group that we began to call A Faith That Does Justice. And the group has now grown to about an average of 125 to 150 people each meeting. We are open to people of all religious denominations. We have had speakers here from the Jewish faith, from the Muslim faith, from Christian faiths, and from other denominations who have come among us to talk about how they work for justice. And in doing so, we learn from each other, we try to break down the barriers that exist between us, and we seek to try and move more and more to people who profess their faith but really move in terms of action to act upon it.